Are you trying to reinvent yourself? Are you trying to grow your empathy? Well, then subscribe to the channel because those are the two biggest takeaways that I get from listening to stories like this. When you hear the term necessary delusion, you apply it to your life. What's the first thing you think of?
For me, I don't think I'm doing a typical thing with my life post graduation, starting your own business and
Mm-hmm.
selling a product that doesn't even exist until you created it. I think I would consider myself a little bit delusional in that sense of everything. So I just graduated from college in May and I didn't choose the typical 9 to 5 route. I decided that I was going to be self-employed and become an entrepreneur and a public speaker and being a disabled woman in both fields that I'm doing, I think that's considered crazy to some people for what I'm trying to do.
I love it. So, Alexia Michitti, your company is called Embrace. It's spelled EM13 race.
Yes.
Why don't you just give us like the really quick kind of pitch of what it is and what you're trying to do with it?
Yeah, so I was born without my right hand. I can show you guys. My sleeves were always too long. I'd always have to roll my sleeve up or bunch it up. And I'd hide my hand behind my back a lot sometimes because I'd get bullied for the way that I looked or just to avoid people staring at me. So I came up with this idea of creating adaptive clothing for people who are missing their arms and their legs. I'm wearing one of the shirts right now, so a little bit shortened on the side that you're missing. We have cuts at the shoulder, elbow, and wrist, and for the lower body at the hip, knee, and shin. These are all patented products that did not exist before I created my company. And it's been going pretty well so far. I launched it a little over 2 years ago and just taking it day by day, seeing what opportunities I can create for people.
Incredible. Alexia, I love it. I wonder if we could take it back. Let's roll it back to the origin. Just learn a little bit about who you are and what got you here. What was the most important thing in the world to you when you were 11 years old?
I would probably have to say soccer at the time. My family, my friends, but at 11, I was big into soccer at that point in my life. When you're a kid, you dream of becoming a professional athlete, and I know at that time I had dreamed of doing that, but as you get older, the reality sets in. But I got to a point in my life recently where I had the chance to go pro at a certain level, and so that was a pretty cool experience. But I wouldn't say that was an easy journey though. Like at 11 years old, you think, happy kid, all the good things happening, but I got bullied a lot for the way that I looked and it was hard, it was challenging and how do you change that mindset at such a young age, to think how can I prevent this for the next person?
Real quick, if you're the kind of earth monster who probably needs therapy, like me, but you'd rather listen to a podcast, also like me, then subscribe to the channel because this is the Earth Monster podcast where we talk about the necessary delusions that drive us through life. Necessary delusions, completely made up term to really describe your plans, your dreams, your wishes, your goals, the things that you believe more than anything else that are really unvalidated by any outside source, just the strongest ideas that we use to get us out of bed in the morning, to propel us through life. They're fantasies, guys. We're driven by fantasies. Let's go back to Alexia.
I am from upstate New York. I'm from Vestal. It's a small town like an hour south of Syracuse.
So you're growing up, you're playing soccer at 11, you're getting bullied, maybe feeling like a little bit of an outcast. I don't know, correct me. But I guess I'm wondering, like, if you were to unpack the idea of soccer being the most important thing, why was it so important? What did it give to you? What did it mean about you that you were playing soccer at 11?
Yeah, so 11 years old, you're entering middle school, aka any one-handed parent's nightmare, from what I understand. You don't know these kids that you're mixing all these schools from the district. You never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
And I tried out for the basketball team when I was in seventh grade. I thought I had a pretty good chance of making it. I had a great friend group I was surrounded by that also played with me, and I went to the tryouts, and first day went by, went good. The second day they mentioned something about my hand, but it kind of like blew past me. And then the third day I found out I didn't make the team because of the right side being an issue, And when I left, I was devastated. I went straight to soccer practice after the tryout, and I didn't really think anything of it. And then about a day later, I was at an event at the school. Like we had an assembly, and I was sitting with two of my friends from kindergarten, and they both played basketball with me. And one of them made the team, and one of them didn't. And they were like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" And I could tell like that the whole energy around me when I was at school those 2 days after I found out I didn't make the team, like something was off. And they said there's a rumor going around that you didn't make the team because of your hand. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, that's crazy. And when I got home that day, my parents were like, yeah, like, and that was the first time in my life that someone had told me I couldn't do something because of my hand. And it affected the trajectory of how I thought my life was going to go. You know, I played basketball just as much as soccer. But then I kind of pivoted and I can do a bunch of tricks with a soccer ball. And I did it for fun. But then that night after I had found out I didn't make the team, there was a sign up to learn to do those tricks more and be like taught by someone, which we thought
Hmm.
it was a sign, you know, one door open, another one, or one door closed, another one open. So
Yeah.
um, it was definitely soccer at 11 years old, you know, it's a dream, but there was other dreams at the time, but it ended up being like a shoulder to lean on to create a new path that I didn't think would ever really become anything besides a hobby. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess I want to, I don't mean to like to define your delusion for you, but I just wonder the way you kind of like to connect the dots a little bit. So you find out that you're not getting basketball. It's sort of significant the first time you're really feeling like, hey, I'm being excluded because of, this physical, sort of thing. Did that make you press into soccer harder? Did it, do you feel like that was, because just tell us a little bit about, so you said that you were up to make pro, you were in a certain league to play pro soccer, correct?
Yes, so I played for the US women's amputee soccer team the last couple years, like from I guess 18 years old to 21. We just went to the World Cup a little over a year or almost a year ago in
Wow.
November of 2024. We went to the first ever women's amputee soccer World Cup, and I switched to goalkeeper because that's the rules of amputee soccer. If you're missing your arm, you have to become a goalkeeper.
Hmm.
And we ended up winning silver medals, and I won the Golden Glove. I have it over here if you want me to
I'd
pull it
love to
up.
see it. Yeah.
Um, it's right here.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool. So I'm the best one-handed goalkeeper in the world right now, but I don't think that would have
Wow.
happened, you know, if just all starting with that mentality like at 11 of like, okay, like how can I create an opportunity for someone else one day, you know? And the other one of the other goalkeepers for Team USA at the World Cup, she's also from my town, and she was the first person I had met that was a kid that had one hand, and then we kind of lost touch, and then we reconnected when I was in high school, and she's a couple years younger, but she was able to come with me to the World Cup. And it was that moment of like, we lost, and I was really sad. But then I remember looking over and I just started crying because I was like, my dream of creating an opportunity for younger kids, it happened. Like I did it, so it definitely was a journey. There's so many times that I wanted to quit. I almost quit right before the World Cup, which if you want to get into that, I can. But yeah, it was a crazy journey. But I can now say I played professional soccer, which was super cool. And
Wow.
yeah.
So when you were growing up, you're sort of focusing on this idea that you wanted to, it's like the motivation came from making a difference for people that come behind you, right? I'm
Yep.
wondering, as a really selfish person, I'm wondering why. Why doesn't the motivation go, I want to do better to show all these a-holes that I can do, you know what I mean? Like, talk to me a little bit about your mentality, about that drive.
Yeah, I guess there's a couple angles of it. Like the first one, when I was growing up, I don't know if you know Jim Abbott. He played for the New York Yankees. He pitched a no hitter. Was born without his hand as well.
Hmm.
And then there's Bethany Hamilton. She was a surfer that was attacked by a shark while during a surfing accident. They were like the only two people really that I could look up to that looked similar to me. I
Mm-hmm.
was able to meet Jim Abbott by Yankee Stadium right before I went to kindergarten. He helped teach me how to tie my shoes, which was super cool. And his
Wow.
documentary Southpaw just came out last year, and I'm featured in it, which was super cool.
Oh wow.
But there was only two people I really had to look up to, and I am the type of person, I would say, I will not deny it, that I would be like, oh, I'll just show you, like, I can do it, but sometimes you're not given the opportunity to do that, and if you can't do it, but you know that you can help influence someone else too, I would rather be doing that now, and I think even with my soccer career, I decided to take a step back on it, but I know I'm at a point where I'd rather show the next person than to just keep taking lead, because one person could try and lead, but why wouldn't you try to have more people take charge and action for themselves? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Talk to me about, as you're moving through school, past age 11, how are you sort of like, how are these ideas kind of like evolving with you? This idea that, some people are going to try to keep me out because I don't have a hand, and also let me react all the more strongly to sort of like carve this path for myself and others. How do you sort of see that, those ideas kind of like travel with you?
When I got to high school, it definitely was one of those times where I was a very shy person. I kept to myself. I wasn't the type of person that would stand up for myself if someone had said something to me. Especially like when I was playing sports, like specifically soccer, like I knew I could just channel whatever I was doing onto the field. Even if that wasn't the best mental space at the time, it was very back and forth. I was facing terrible burnout in high school with soccer, but I just
Mm.
couldn't let it go.
Hmm.
But I knew that no matter what was happening off the field, whether it was bullying or whatever it was, I could still show that I'm more than that in a different way. But I really tried to surround myself with friends that were supportive of me and would stick up for me. There was a lot of situations in high school where I wasn't even around, and people were talking about me or my hand or whatever. I don't even know. I didn't talk to anyone, so I don't know how. But they would stand up for me, and I was like, who do I want to be around me? People who are going to stand up for me and uh, like have my back when I'm not around, or do I want to have people that don't have my back and chip into the conversation? So that was something in high school, especially as the last few years of school transitioning into college, I definitely shifted towards that mentality as well. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Alexia, do you think that the fact that you have one hand, do you think it helps you suss out good people versus bad people faster?
I definitely do. Like literally, my closest friends are people that I met in kindergarten. The few girls I talk to, like literally all the time, I've been friends with since kindergarten, and I don't mean that as like I didn't try to branch out or anything. I've made new friends and I've met some great people along the way, but still, like, my closest people are like the ones that had my back when I wasn't there. And I definitely think I can catch on to it quicker than some people.
Yeah.
Even to my other friends that are in this community, like they might not catch on to it, or sometimes I miss it and they catch on to it, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even notice that. So I definitely think it does. It's kind of like how people who are like, I think if they're blind, they have like a better sense of like hearing. You know what I
Yep.
mean? It's like something like that, except just on a, I guess, emotional level to an extent.
So is this something that you think about to a certain extent, that you know um that you're able to that you have that kind of like superpower to be able to like sort of like detect like this person's judging, or this person's negative, or this person's this or that, and oh, this is a kind, genuine, authentic person, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it parallels with my company yet to an extent, embracing yourself rather than hiding it. And part of it all stemmed from staring, right? And staring at my hand and hiding my hand. And you could feel that even if you didn't have to turn your head behind you to know that someone was looking at you. And so, me like subconsciously putting my hand in my pocket or wherever, hiding, pulling my sleeve down, to just reinforcing with my business of just don't hide who you are, you know. I definitely think that plays a part in it. And um, yeah,
Yeah. Can you talk to me about staring? These are things that I just like as we're talking, I'm sort of like, I don't know, maybe it's really common, common thing for your experience. I think that people that aren't having your experience, I think that it's things I don't hear people talking about. I would love to hear
yeah.
your perspective on people staring at you.
Yeah, so I think for me, some people don't notice that I have one hand until like it's visible to them.
Mm-hmm.
So the 13 in my company name, it's my favorite number. It's my number for soccer. But I wanted to have a double meaning. So when you look close up, it looks like a 13. This is just a shirt pick to separate the shirts.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look close up, it looks like a 13. But from far away, it's supposed to look like a B, just like a person with limb difference. When
Yeah.
you look close up, you could tell we look different, but from far away, you can't really tell.
Yeah.
So, I definitely think, staring, you kind of just, like, I think I get, like, I like ignore it now, but I also still catch myself hiding my hand if I'm not paying attention. Like when
Hmm.
you walk in a room and you don't like know people, like I definitely do that, or if I'm meeting someone new, like I still hide my hand like this and I won't deny that owning this business, like it's been such a habit for 21 years of my life that it's not going to change overnight even if I am thinking about it all the time. There's still situations that you will want to hide it. So, um, yeah. But I also encourage people to not hide themselves either. And
Of course.
yeah,
I feel like that's your whole thing. That's your message to yourself. I feel like with your clothing company, even right. It's embrace yourself.
yeah,
Um, I wonder. It's your right hand, correct?
yes,
So shaking hands
my
is a
nightmare.
moment,
Yep.
right? It's your nightmare.
Like I look like I'm doing the Macarena trying to shake someone's hand, because they reach for the right and I reach for the right and they're like, oh, and then they reach for the left and then they're like, but that's not right, So I always would joke that for doing the Macarena, but
Yeah,
it
that's a
depends
good
on
one.
the handshake, I guess. Like before I when I just graduated from college, I went up to my advisor and the dean, and I knew both of them well, and I was like, hey, like, shake my right hand, please, at graduation, like I said it politely, and they were like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that, because they know who I am, but you got thousands of kids walking through that day, you got to get
Yeah.
through all of them too, so no one's sitting there for 4+ hours. And, they're very accepting of me just mentioning it, and like they were happy that I had acknowledged it because you're right, you do shake with your right hand and it can be a problem sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you describe that. I'm like shaking someone's hand. You go, my nightmare. How do you think that necessary delusion, my nightmare, or that habit or feeling has affected you meeting new people, you introducing yourself to new people?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I remember right before I went to college, I remember just like sitting in my car and I was like having a panic attack because I was like, you know, whether I got bullied or not in high school for how I looked, people still knew what happened. They knew my deal, I guess. But when you go to college, no one knows who you are. They don't know what the deal is.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like freaking out, like, what if they don't like me? Like, what if they don't like how I look or they can't get over that? And that happened my freshman year, and it was a nightmare, another nightmare. And I was wearing a sweatshirt for about the first 3-4 weeks of school. It was 90 degrees and I was hiding my hand. I was wearing a sweatshirt because people were staring at me in the dining hall. My one class, no one would sit in the seat next to me on the right hand side, like kids were standing, but no one would sit there.
Mm.
And it was like I didn't even know what to do because it's like you're playing a sport in college, you're in a new setting, and then it's like on top of that something that you didn't have to worry about since elementary school is happening again. Um, Except these people are 20 years old, so yeah, that would definitely be my situation for that, I guess. So yeah.
What about right now when you think about meeting new people?
I think now I'm not as concerned about it because, I'm at that age now where it's like, oh, nice to meet you. What do you do? Right? What is your job? And so it's like, well, this is my job, like to like empower people who look like me. And, I'm not as afraid to hide it. At first I kind of was, but then people are like, oh, that's cool, or like, oh, I didn't know that was a
Mm-hmm.
thing. And I'm like, yeah, it just became a thing, So I think I'm more confident with it now than I was maybe even 3 or 4 months ago because, yeah, it's something that I've had to change my mentality on because it's like, why are you going to hide this if this is what your life's work is right now? So,
Yeah. Is that your go-to joke when you're shaking hands with someone, the Macarena joke?
yeah, I get half off at the nail salon too.
It's a it's good. It's everyone's like everyone's looking for icebreakers for their own specific reasons. Those are good ones. Um
Thanks.
uh Maybe tell me a little bit about your mentality in high school. You said you were experiencing burnout. Was it um was it anger that you were channeling into playing that was making you work so hard?
So, oh, sorry. Can you repeat that one more time?
I just wonder, you were talking about burnout in high school, and I'm wondering what that was. Was it anger that you were channeling into soccer that was making you work so hard? And was that sort of the issue, or were you being, what was the burnout?
Yeah, so the burnout was definitely with soccer. Like academically, I was like fine, like I didn't have burnout in other parts of my life. It was really just with soccer. I had been playing it at that point, I think for 10 almost 10 years straight every
Mm-hmm.
day. I missed huge events for my life and for my close family and friends' life to go play. It wasn't really going the direction that I had hoped. Plus, COVID happened, and then it's like, I'm going to all these practices, but I'm just kind of going through the motions, like getting through it. And I wanted to quit, but then I thought, if I get to college, maybe there will be a new opportunity there. I think it was just like overworking and like I just I was like, what am I doing? But then I
Mm-hmm.
thought there was gold at the end of the rainbow eventually, and there was not. But eventually it shifted and there was a double rainbow. So that's when I was introduced to amputee soccer. So there was hope. It just took a little bit more time than I thought.
So maybe just with specifics a little bit, it sounds like you were playing on like standard schools soccer teams growing up. Is
So
that?
so I was playing travel soccer most of my life. I played for my high school during the fall season, but normally we'd have practice Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturday, and then Sunday I would have practice for my travel team. And then after my high school season ended, I had practice um, normally twice a week for travel, and then the other days was like shooting, lifting,
Mm-hmm.
like foot skill training, all of that stuff. Um, so it was just becoming like a lot, and I did end up committing to play Division 3 soccer, and I did it for the first year of college, and then once that season had ended, both once the fall and the spring ended, I was like, all right, I'm done with soccer. And it was a hard decision to make because I had watched friends just step away from it. And I knew a part of me wanted to do that too, but I knew a part of me knew that I had worked so hard all these years to get to that point. But then, my mental health was declining from it. And I was like, what cost is this? Like it's not worth this anymore, and um yeah, so it was a hard decision to make, but then at the
Mm-hmm.
same time I had just started getting introduced to amputee soccer. So I stopped playing the soccer that you may watch on TV and I shifted to amputee soccer, and that opened a new door for me and helped me re-fall in love with soccer again, which again I quit. I was done and then it reopened a door. So yeah.
I know you're telling me there's no gold at the end of this rainbow, but you already showed me your trophy.
I
You
know.
went to the World Cup. You're the number one. What'd you say? The number one amputee,
Goalkeeper in the
yeah,
world. Yeah.
goalkeeper in the world. Come on.
For amputee soccer. Yeah. For
Wow.
women, at least.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was that was this whole other journey, but yeah.
Yeah. Um, Alexia, so well, I guess a couple of things here. First of all, do I have your permission to use this conversation, this recording on my podcast, online, promoting the podcast, that kind of thing?
Yes.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. And maybe you could just leave us with some creature comforts.
Okay.
What are some
Um,
things? Yeah. What? Yeah. Does something come right to mind?
remember why you started? I think for me, I always kept in mind my younger self. I always thought of little Ale. That's why people used to call me Ale. And I would think of, the dreams that she had always hoped for. And um, when I got to the point of having the chance to go to the World Cup and I was ready to quit, I remembered I was inches away from this childhood dream happening, and I'm sure other people have it too when they just throw the dream away when they get older, but you never know how it will come back. And the other thing would be if you have an idea, write it down because you never know what it will turn into. For me, this idea started in my dorm room wall at one of my lowest points at the end of my freshman year of college when I had just quit soccer, and now it turned into what I'm doing for my job and I'm helping other people. So you never know what kind of impact you can make on others from that impacted you.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I do want to go back to one thing you just reminded me. Just take me sort of quickly through the experience with the World Cup, starting with when you were going to quit soccer right before your sort of peak experience there.
Okay.
What was that? What were you
Yeah.
feeling?
So, end of my first year, I was introduced to amputee soccer in the middle of my freshman year of college. I was playing it like on and off, but I was still playing college soccer. Eventually, I ended up quitting college soccer, and I was still holding on to the disability soccer, which was amputee soccer at the time. I actually called Jocelyn and I said, "Hey, I'm quitting my soccer team tomorrow. Can I still be involved with disability sports, disability soccer specifically, if I quit this team?" And she's like, "Yeah, of course." So I ended up playing my sophomore year. They for the New York amputee soccer team, and then they had the first women's amputee soccer camp in California at the in the April or no of May of 2023, and then I tried out for the U.S. national amputee soccer team, which was co-ed at the time, and I made that team, and they were also building a women's team. We went to Poland. We played in the inaugural women's amputee match against Poland. We lost 1-0. Some of my teammates had never played soccer before they got there. And then they had announced about a month later that they were having the first ever women's amputee soccer World Cup in Colombia. So I was preparing for that. So was my team. We had camp in July and September before we went to travel there in November of 2024. And when the September camp hit, I was starting, I guess, to relapse with the burnout for playing. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I had one of the biggest mental breakdowns about soccer I think I've ever had in my life. My parents almost came down to get me from the camp because they were like, you can't be doing this anymore. But I knew that I was so close to this goal, and my teammates worked so hard that I knew if I didn't follow through with it, it could really impact their lives and their experience too. So I had a couple conversations with some people afterwards to get my head straight and see why I should continue with this and why I shouldn't. And one of them being for my younger self. And I ended up going through with it, which I'm so glad that I did. And we won silver medals at the first ever Women's Amputee World Cup. We went to 3 games straight of penalty kicks. So quarterfinal, semifinal, and World Cup final were all penalty kick games. I'm the goalkeeper, so that was a very big deal for me.
Yeah.
But I ended up winning the Golden Glove as well, and it was definitely a mental like game, like from September until after the World Cup ended for me. But I got through it, and yeah.
So when you're saying like you were going to quit and this burnout and stuff, is this is this because of the mindset and the mentality that you take on through playing soccer? Are you putting so much pressure on yourself? Are you not able to treat it casually? You have to go, it's because of the focus and the intensity that makes it sort of unsustainable for you?
um, Just, I will say yes and no. I do think that I put a lot of pressure on myself. I think a lot of people know that I do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
When we got to the World Cup and we're playing these games, my teammates and my coaches are like, "We've never seen this version of you before." I'm like, "Yeah, because we weren't playing in any ridiculously high stakes games.
Yeah.
And I definitely think I care a lot, and I'm there to win. I'm not there to become friends. We can become friends after we beat you, um, and I think that they started to see that the last three games, especially after that first game of penalty kicks, that like something in my head had switched immediately when it was time to go. But um, I think for the end of, as far as the burnout goes, I think I just wanted to try new opportunities.
Yeah.
I played basketball, but there's other things that I've turned down in my life just because of soccer. I wanted to play lacrosse at one point, but it didn't work out with the travel season. I'm playing pickleball now, which I definitely would not have had time to do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just pivoting to have more experiences, I guess, in life than just playing soccer. So yeah.
Yeah. Are you in touch with your anger at all? I tend to think we're all sort of angry, but you had brought it up before, and I don't know. I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, and I could see myself having some anger about a lot of the things that you're talking about. I'm just wondering if that's something that you're in touch with or experience or.
Yeah, I definitely think that I've become more aware of my frustrations that I've had. In high school, I definitely don't think that I was. Um, Maybe towards the end of senior year of high school, but since college, I think it has evolved in the situations that I've been put into, especially after my first year of school, like where that year was probably more anger than of responding of how can I change this and how I'm looking at it. I think that it's definitely not going to be a quick change, but I definitely think that I'm aware of it, and I think everyone has frustrations too, and I think it's okay to feel them. It's okay to feel, and I think that was part of the problem too is people shut down your emotions a lot while you're playing these games and don't consider how you're actually doing. And I think that's a big thing that people forget about nowadays is that you're not a robot. Not
Yeah.
everyone's a robot yet. And I think that's super important to think about. So, yeah.
Yeah. Alexia, why don't you tell us where we can find out more about you, more about Embrace?
Yeah, so if you search embrace.com, the B is a 13. There's more, it's my website for my company, but there's also a section on there about me, about speaking engagements. If anyone's interested, I host assemblies at schools and speak at businesses. And I run all of the accounts on there. So if you want to follow us on Instagram or Facebook, DM me because I'm the one running it. So I'd be happy to chat with anyone if they want to know any more about me or about my business or any way we can work together.
Excellent. So you're searching EM13RACE. Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. Alexia, thank you so much for having this conversation today. I really appreciate your time and your perspective. This was fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.
Wow. I thought she was super concise, really in touch with her story, the ideas that have driven her, the sort of milestones that mattered the most. If you want to learn more about Embrace, you can look it up online, 13RACE by Alexia Michitti. And if you are the kind of earth monster who probably needs therapy, you do, then subscribe to the podcast. Not to say that I'm any sort of doctor. I'm actually more of a patient with a passion. But subscribe to the channel because I get so much out of having these conversations and hearing people talk about these transformational moments, these ideas that have driven them over the course of decades. It really helps me sort of listen harder to that inner voice of my own, to latch on to the ideas that, or to get in touch rather with the ideas that have driven me through my life. And through getting in touch with them, it helps me to rewrite my story. So subscribe to the show, support us, and homework for myself. Try to figure out what kind of earth monster you want to be. Get an idea and hang on to it tight like a dog with a bone. Think it, feed it, do it. We will be back next week with more epic, everyday stories of success and redemption. You'll see me next time.